don't think I did that. I think you did that to me.
No,
Anyway,
no, I
Donald
didn't
Trump,
do that.
who takes office in a matter of days, defeated Kamala Harris in large part because of voter dissatisfaction over the economy. But what will his economy look like? In many ways, this is a tale of two economies. The stock market, the tech sector, and the wealthy are doing better than ever. The working class and manufacturing are struggling. These are, to be fair, long-term trends that have taken place under both Democratic and Republican administrations. Can Trump reconcile his populist and billionaire bases? Can he keep inflation under control? Might he consider expanding the social safety net, especially for healthcare, or increase the minimum wage? What will he do as AI continues to kill off American jobs? Joining us to talk about all this is Aquiles Larrea. He's the CEO and founder of Larrea Wealth Management here in beautiful New York City. He's also the author of the book, Your Money and You, the ultimate guide for Latino entrepreneurs. But I bet you don't have to be Latino to appreciate it.
Yes, Thanks. You probably don't have to be Latino to read it, right?
Definitely not.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year. Okay, real quick, Aquiles. Can you explain? So we're looking at the book cover right here, Your Money and You, the ultimate wealth guide for Latino entrepreneurs and executives. Create your empanada of success. What is an empanada of success?
Very quickly, an empanada is like a little pastry. You put the different foods inside. It could be meat, it could be veggie, it could be cheese, and the like. And every country in Latin America has it. So these empanadas are universal to both Latin America and in Spain as well. So it's this one common theme that I thought would resonate with Latino people. And at the same time, guys, this is my first book. The new book is out now, and I'll get that information to you guys. And that's called Wise Up With Your Money. And it's geared towards the Anglo, it's geared more towards the population in general in the United States.
Very good. Very good. Thank you for explaining. I was just curious. I was like, what is the empanada? So it's like layers of stuff before you stuff the inside.
Yeah, and then you deep fry it, and it's delicious.
I've had them. They're very good.
I've had empanadas. I just had to know like what an empanada of success looked like and what that meant. So I guess for all those in the Latino community, they grew up with it, so they understand the analogy, I suppose.
I think so.
Hopefully.
Yes, thank you for being with us. So first, let's jump right in. We got like less than 2 weeks at this point, because what is it, Tuesday today? Less than 2 weeks before Donald Trump is inaugurated. Aquiles, so we know that the stock market, Wall Streeters like yourself, Wall Street has responded well since the elections. Why is Wall Street excited for a Trump return?
Well, this has to do really with the Republican side as well, because the perception is that the Republicans are very business friendly, pro-corporation, and these are the things that excite people because they think that it's going to jumpstart the economy. In some cases it does, but in other cases it's actually been the opposite effect. Long term, the Republican administrations, if you look at their performance in the stock market, have had kind of a lackluster type view, and the Democrats haven't been all that that better as far as the performance in the stock market. But it's an exciting time from the sense that, hey, we got a new administration coming in, we can have some positive change, and at the same time, business owners, especially small business owners like myself, are looking at this as, hey, we have some opportunities we may have not seen before. Business is growing, and we're going to see going forward for the next 4 years an environment where you perceive that an administration is going to help you rather than harm you.
Yeah, I mean, look at these numbers coming from CBS Miami that, and this is coming from bankrate.com. If this is what Wall Streeters think, it's not just Wall Street. The average person, according to Bankrate, those numbers have improved by double digits. That people think the average person thinks the economy is going to get better.
Still
yeah,
under
but if
50%.
Look at the improvement now. It's now because Donald Trump was elected, because as we know, even when polling was underway, the average citizen that is not, super left, super right, they had this view that Donald Trump would be better for the economy, which reveals that
Couldn't this also be just that
they had more money
COVID,
before.
the COVID lockdown is more in our rearview mirror, and the further we get away from it, the more optimistic people feel?
Yeah, I think we're coming out of the woodwork when we come. You see people all of a sudden they're taking more chances. Business people are not risk averse. They're going to go in there. They're going to take their chances. I think these numbers are somewhat skewed because if you think about it, the numbers that you see here, once the administration starts and gets going, it's actually this is going to pull back probably into the 20s. All right. And it's no fault of the administration. It's just that expectations can be so high and unrealistic at times. And then the reality sets in. And, it's kind of a mixed message at time, guys.
And there's been some serious promises coming from Trump. I mean, Trump's like, only I can fix it. He says that, overnight gas prices are going to drop. He's going to impose these tariffs. He's going to do these mass deportations that are somehow going to make it easier for everyone to find affordable housing and a great high paid job. Like obviously when you set up expectations like that, it's unlikely that you're going to achieve them, or at least in very quickly, if ever. And so you're going to disappoint people for sure. What do you think the new administration's economic orientation is going to be? Is it going to be, DOGE oriented, basically tax cuts for billionaires, tax cuts for corporations, slashing the austerity, slashing the social safety net? Is there going to be Trump wasn't very big on, he wasn't a deficit hawk last time. Will he be this time? $39 trillion, hard to keep track.
No, I think exactly what you're saying. When it comes to this administration, they have already made it clear that they're going to take care of their own, that the millionaires are going to be taken care of. There are going to be big tax cuts because they are still believing, even though I don't believe in the trickle down economy set, and I'm not a
does
big
not work.
It's a bunch of bull. Pardon my French.
It is.
But what I see on the positive side is that there are a lot more small business entrepreneurs getting into the fray versus the COVID economy. We're going to see a lot more activity because small business drives business in the United States. Anybody who doesn't think that, I don't know where they've been. So another thing with the stock market, we are entering another bullish cycle. We were supposed to have a recession last year, but all the factors that point towards that negative growth and the such, they've not shown up. We've also have a very resilient economy. We also have job claims that are on the rise. Joblessness is steady and not going anywhere at this particular point. So the positivity that's emitting is great, but I also want to caution the economic cycle that we're in must pull back at some point. I talked about the market on other media, on other shows. I've talked about the market pulling back and having a correction, so that way we could see the rest of the year take off. Well, I'm sticking to that. We've seen somewhat of a correction happen, and we are going to see a massive move to the upside once the administration is in place and things start to settle in. But also another thing, this economic cycle, even though it still has legs, will start to pull back probably latter this year, and we'll start to see real corrections as we saw in the past. And that's great because it actually keeps the poker game honest, I call it, because you got to have corrections in order to have those big expansions.
And what's your take on what housing is going to look like in 2025? We saw Jerome Powell before the holidays, or right before Christmas rather, that he cut the base rate down by 0.25%. But we haven't seen rates really budge yet. Maybe there's some incentive, rates floating around out there or whatever, but But generally, we haven't seen it budge. Housing is still tough. It still hasn't fully rebounded since the COVID backlog, right? Of like raw materials and all of that. None of that has really bounced back yet. It's been 4 years. Housing is still a problem. What does Wall Street think is happening with that for 2025?
Well, let's forget about Wall Street for a moment on this. Let's just take the inventory right now. The inventory on housing is still anemic. And if you're raising the rates, lowering the rates as the Fed is doing, you would think that the housing mortgage rates would go down. And as a matter of fact, it went the opposite, it went up. Okay. So you're going to have two problems. The first thing, the rates go up, not much of an incentive for someone to go and buy a house at this particular point. The second thing, housing prices, because of the anemic inventory, will also go up. You started to see it at the beginning of last year, and it's continued that trend. I don't see that reversing at this particular point, but I do see it will be somewhat abating, probably third or fourth quarter of 25. So we're not going to see something fixed right away. But what I also would say at this point, mortgage rates will start to go down at some point. And I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I think it's gonna happen this quarter, but more in the March, April type area. And that's gonna be good because people are gonna start looking again. The weather gets better if you're in the north. In the south, you don't have to worry about those things. But in the northeast here, when you wake up to 17 degrees and it feels like 8, it's a part of home buying. That's part of it. So all things being said, housing will start kicking up, start moving that activity probably in March, April of this year, with a good environment of interest rate, mortgage rates going down in that time period. If it starts to go up, it means that inflation has started creeping up again. Inflation has been a stalwart. It has been really kicking at us this entire time, and Powell has limited options going forward. He can start putting things down, but if the rates continue to go up, that means inflation is stronger than he thought, and they're going to have, conceivably, instead of the quarter point drop down, they're going to have to do a half point drop down, which they did at the beginning. They can't be afraid to use these tools.
Also, a side note, Jerome Powell, Donald Trump has signaled that he wants to get rid of Jerome Powell because Powell's been there for 2 administrations now. Trump has signaled that he wants him out. Powell has pushed back and said, no, POTUS has no control over my seat. Do you think he stays? And what's that going to look like if he's going to be butting heads with the new POTUS?
Well, here's the thing. He stays as long as he wants to stay. They are independent of the government, and people forget that. All right, he could thumb his nose at Trump all he wants. He is in a position to do so. He's also in a unique position that the Fed has been right more than they've been wrong. If you look historically, the Fed has been on the money as far as the economy is concerned, and they're going to continue the manner of moving rates the way that they see fit. Remember, they are in control of the rates, and they are in control of observing whether or not unemployment at this particular point. That's their job, whether or not unemployment goes further down, which we see it's kind of leveling off right now, but was still manageable right now, which I think is important.
Ted, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay, I have demuted myself. Aquiles, do you think you mentioned the housing market? Do you think how much of a interest rate drop do you think we're looking at in the next year? A full point? Half a point?
Well, think about it. We were at 11% a year ago in August. Okay, and all of a sudden we dropped back down into the 6 range, into the 5 range for some people. Mm-hmm. Okay, now obviously well-qualified buyers. I believe, and once again, we're going out on a limb here, but I believe it would not be crazy to think that we could get back to that 5 point, even 4 point. People look at me like I'm nuts, but it doesn't take all that much to bring mortgage rates down. And if inventory starts, we start seeing people wanting to sell their houses a little bit more, then we could see another drop.
Yeah, I mean, there's a sense that the market, the real estate seems like it's frozen, right? I mean, it's like basically stuck. There's a lot of people who want to move, but they can't move. They feel like they can't get the price that they want. A lot of people want to buy, but they feel like they can't get the interest rate that they want. There's not a lot of inventory. It just seems like things are like not matched well.
Yeah, it seems that way, and a lot of times it is that way. That's the reality. But going back to what I said, if we start to see, in the first quarter, second quarter of this year, that the Fed interest rates are going down, and there's a lack of strong inflation data, then at that point we could conceivably see that the mortgage rates go down in that sense, and we could also see inflation being perceived as more tame at that point in time.
Do you think Trump is going to do anything? I know this might be a little bit outside of your wheelhouse, but it does affect economics. Do you think Trump is going to address the yearning on the populist right as well as the populist left to sort of solve some long-standing problems that Americans have faced in terms of high healthcare prices, high college and tuition prices to send their kids to school, student loan debt? There's a lot of these things that Democrats and Republicans have kicked down the road, for year after year after year. But there's kind of an opportunity for a one-term president who doesn't have to run again, who's at the end of his career,
A lame duck
who can pretty much, and who has control of all three branches of government to get some things done if he wants to. I mean, could we see a Nixon goes to China kind of Trump move on healthcare, for example? I mean, he follows the news about Luigi Mangione. He saw the way that people responded to how much they hate the health insurance companies. Do you think that we might see something there, or is it just going to be like, this is for the billionaires?
A bit of both, and I'll tell you why. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, especially the healthcare companies, have very strong lobbies. And we're not going to see much movement on that front. As a matter of fact, I'd probably see the opposite, where some of the previous administration's moves are now in Trump's hands. And he's got to decide, perception's everything when it comes to the public. He's got to make a decision whether or not, instead of dismantling Obamacare, which is the law of the land currently, and a lot very popular amongst the people, he's got to decide, how can I turn this, if he's smart, how can I turn this into Trump Care 2.0, right, or 1.0, however you want to talk about it. And there are many improvements upon the healthcare system that can be made.
Public option, please.
Health with moral suasion, or just simply saying to the companies, hey, listen, if you don't play ball, we're going to get tougher with you guys and make you lower the prices on everything, which is,
and maybe no more random denials,
Maybe. we're not sure at this point. But I do think another thing that I would say regarding, you're going to see these tax cuts, right? You're going to see these tariffs occur. Wouldn't it be wonderful? This is just in an ideal world. Would it not be wonderful if we could pay for our taxes using the tariff system? All right. That's a far-reaching goal, guys. All right. Yeah, we used to do it. But you know what? That was a long time ago.
The economy was very different then.
Exactly.
I mean, in the 19th century. I mean, we only get about less than 2% of federal revenues come in from tariffs now. Over 55% comes in from income taxes. That's not even including other forms of taxes, corporate taxes. This is just personal individual taxes is over 50% of the federal budget.
one of the things that Trump has been harping about is in his first term he threw out old NAFTA and created, I forget the acronym that he uses for his new version of NAFTA, but now he wants to be out with that entirely, and now he wants to tariff Canada and Mexico. Now, here is the monkey wrench in the whole scheme. Is Justin Trudeau yesterday announced he's stepping down. So in a matter of, it could be weeks, maybe a couple months, somewhere in the first quarter,
It
he
has
could
to
be
be by
stepping down.
mid-March. Has to be by
Yeah.
mid-March. Yeah.
So in the first quarter, he'll be stepping down. It seems like, and I'm no expert in Canadian politics, but it seems like a conservative parliament will be ushered in and a conservative prime minister will be ushered in. Do you think Trump will change his tune on this tariff thing, or do you think they'll kind of work in tandem together, and then they'll have to deal with Claudia Sheinbaum down in Mexico?
Yeah, I think that at this particular point, you kind of do damned if you do, damned if you don't at this point. You got to wait to see what the conservatives have to offer and if the Canadians are biting at this point. And the liberals are going to be saying to themselves, well, how can we position going forward now that Trudeau is out? But I think going back to what you said, when it comes to these situations, it's very fluid. You don't have one way or the other that is the most positive things. But I think that Mr. Trump, President Trump, in a few days, President Trump will be going into the direction of the tariffs. He'll keep talking about it, but I think it will be a softer stance. I think he will blow hard, but the stance itself
As
will
he does.
be
It's a bluff.
it will be more delicate than we're thinking.
So you're not
Because
saying no full-fledged trade war with China?
yeah, I think honestly he wants to see more trade with the United States. The tariffs are, well, we're going to bring everything back to America. Yeah, that would have worked maybe 40 years ago. But right now, that's not going to work. It's still too expensive to make the goods here. He actually would be in his best interest to go to Mexico because versus China, Mexico now has the best environment for workers, the cheapest labor, and the like, and would do better to do there. Canada is still a very strong import-export partner, which I see being important. You don't want to change that up all that much. And hopefully we can come to some sort of agreement. I think right now there's a lot of, like we said, blowhard grandstanding taking place.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize this, but Mexico is now, as of 2024, now the third largest producer of automobiles. Granted, the manufacturing companies are American or from elsewhere, but they're also now in the top 5 import-export car market. So, like you said, Mexico is very much poised to be a great business partner, but I think Trump is having a hard time, one, figuring out how to talk to a woman president and Claudia Sheinbaum, and two, the fact that she comes from the same camp as AMLO, which is a socialist-based background. He's not going to know how to deal with that and how to, leverage that to the best of for the U.S. For those two reasons. I think he's just going to have a hard time dealing with Claudia Sheinbaum. She's already come out as very feisty and fighting back against him. But it would be in his best interest. Forget this guy. I mean, he's gone in a couple weeks, and the young guy that is set to replace him, another young guy but conservative. Like, forget that guy. Mexico looks like the way to go. To your point, I'm with you on that. Like, I think that's the smart way to go. And it doesn't look like he's doing anything but attacking the southern border. Wouldn't that behoove him economically to make nice with Claudia Sheinbaum?
I agree. It would behoove him, but at the same time, he probably looks at her as a petulant child. In his eyes. Think about it. If you're dealing with people who are at the highest levels, when we're talking about Claudia, we're talking about more of the AMLO policy, but we are talking about a person who will take a stand and really give you a hard time if you let her. And so talk about the southern border all you want, but why not make a deal with her which they're currently talking about, and they're talking about more now, make a deal with Mexico so that way it doesn't impede on all the goods and services that we're doing with Mexico at this point. Let's be smart, let's be strategic, and let's move forward, I would say.
Yeah, I think Latin America has a lot to offer. All of North America, really, but I mean, really, we're in the United States, right? So I would just point out that we rely so heavily, and people don't realize, so heavily on the farming and the agriculture in Mexico and Central America, and all Trump is focusing on is the border, 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 when really it would, rather than have sanctions, right? It would behoove he and his administration to, put out the olive branch and shake hands and say, how can we fix this together? And also, I really like your mango farm there. Let's do a deal. I really like your banana farm right there. Let's make a deal. But instead, he's alienating all of these people south of us. And last couple of topics on that, because this circles right back to our grocery prices, Aquiles. How is any of this, what he's talking about, gonna help, suburban moms like me that have to do the grocery shopping and feed a family on a budget?
Yeah, exactly. I went into an Asian market the other day. It's called H Mart, and it's a
Oh yeah.
Korean market here that's all over the US right now. It's growing steadily. The price varied just in 2 weeks. The price varied on 25-pound bag of rice. It varied from $20 to $29. All right.
Wow.
How are you going to explain to the population that you are looking out, fanfare for the common man, as they call it, but you're looking out for them when prices are continuing to burgeon up? Corporations have record profits, and I see no end in sight to that, because it's like taxes. Once it's there, it's not going anywhere. So I see the prices starting to creep back up. About in August of 24, I told the same story on another network. I said, you were at roughly about $19 for the same pound of 25 pound of rice. Now you have to ask yourself what it's going to look like from a year from now. And I think we're going back up. I think it's going to steady around $26, $25 a bag. So that's the thing. As rice and you start to see it go up, everything else follows suit. So mark my
Yes.
words, we're gonna see this go up. It's gonna be worse before it gets better. I don't, as a one-term president, I don't see it changing all that much, except if there's an inflation drop. And even then, it's like gas, right? You see the prices spike up real quick and all that stuff, and then all of a sudden, oh, gas went down. And it went down 20 cents, when in the meantime it spiked up 80 cents.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
with food long term, don't we also have major, climate change related problems with the food supply, right? There's more pests that are affecting
Bird
crops.
flu, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's true, right? And then there's also just shipping is more complicated.
But that's why we're going to get the Panama Canal back, Ted.
Oh, I'm sure that's part of what's on his mind about that, right? Try to open up the Northwest Passage to get Greenland and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, obviously.
But I think food's a long-term problem. It's not just a 2025 issue.
Yeah, I think we need to be more strategic with our food stuff. What I mean by that is just simply wherever we're getting our food, we need to get better pricing. We need to get, if it's available, people forget a lot of fruits were only meant to be one season. And now, it's all year round and people have that expectation.
Yeah.
That's not great from the agricultural point of view. I think the way you have to treat this is, hey, we don't have that now, but let's try more avocados. Let's try more mangoes, as you said. So let's try all the different type of fruits out there, which would create a more uniform inventory here in the United States. Yeah, you know, you can still have that, but why do we have to have it? So it's just an opinion.
Mhm.
No, I agree. And not to mention what that does to the greenhouse gas effect of, bringing in fruits that are out of season in the US. You're going down south to get it's a whole thing, right? And like you said, it's setting up expectations because we have, us in the first world have become extremely spoiled. And I mean, as recently as like the 80s and 90s, it wasn't like this at the grocery store. It wasn't like this where you can have whatever fruit you want all year round. And suddenly it is like this, but now it's driving up other costs for the producers locally here in the US and in Mexico or in Canada. And people just don't think about the whole chain, the food chain, as it were, right? But a different kind of food chain, the manufacturing side and production side. So, we appreciate people like you bringing that up to kind of educate all of us on it because, we can't be experts in everything, but I do see it because I am the suburban mom and I have a little one. So I know it hurts me that the eggs jumped recently because of the whole bird flu. There was a case of 60 eggs that you can get at Walmart. They were under $12, if you can believe it.
That's amazing.
I know.
Snatch them
I
up.
know. I did
Weren't
get
they
them.
just $9 a little while ago?
A case of 60 eggs were under sub 12, right?
5 dozen, yeah.
And that was in November. And then right now, because of bird flu and who knows what else, maybe it's elections, maybe, I don't know, cost of gas probably going up with the bird flu. The same 60 is now $22 roughly at the local Walmart. So that we were just showing here on the screen. So people like me, middle-class moms, we feel the pinch first and foremost. And we are the ones that drive the polls as this is what happened. And a lot of moms put their faith behind Donald Trump. And I don't know if he's going to deliver for the women like me that are like, I don't know, I'm desperate. Bring down these prices. This isn't right. Families are going without. So I don't know. Any final thoughts on that one, Aquiles?
Well, I mean, I would just go back to the economy. We're hitting a term where a time where not as expansive as we were before. We're starting to go backwards a little bit. But I think it's important to remember that those prices that you see there at $22, they're not going to stay there. That is absolutely not a sustainable level at this point. Yes, the pinch hurts, absolutely. But remember, like the rice example I gave you, up to 26, down to 19, stabilizing at 25. This is just the new reality. Commodities have always been moving up and down more so than the stock market. So you have to keep that in mind. A lot of people don't know that the commodities markets are 24 hours and throughout the world. So you have to watch that if you're going to speak about what the future might hold in this particular country about food stuff and the like.
Aquiles, we'll leave it right there. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your expert insight. Aquiles Larrea is the CEO and founder of Larrea Wealth Management. He's the author of several. You have a second book that's out that we have to get a photo of later for next time. His other book, I'm sure if they look up Empanada of Success, they're going to find it. But the book is called Your Money and You, the Ultimate Guide for Latino Entrepreneurs. And you don't even have to be Latino to read it. So thank you, Aquiles.
Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful week.
Thanks, Aquiles.
Happy
You too.
New Year. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.